build a positive chat experience for you and your viewers. Choose who can. Not closing that. Whatever, dude. Let's see. Live for 20 seconds. It's giving me recommendations here. All right. So, I've been working all day and I drank too much sweet tea. So, I decided to go live on YouTube and talk about some lures. I want to talk about this lure, Big Glide Bait by Buka. I want to talk about a small Buka bull shad. This is the original Buka bull shad. Thanks for joining, man, whoever you are up there. I'm going to do a video about this for YouTube. This bait right here is one of my favorite baits. And it can be pricey. You know how swim baits are. And if anybody's new to swim bait fishing, we've got this bull shad. This is the one by Cast Co. that Jen Jekyll is her Jekyll Paints or Jekyll Baits. I have to double check on that. Does the paint schemes for these guys, and they're not nearly as expensive. I believe this one, well, this one and this one are modeled off. This one is modeled off of this one, but this one's like $15, and this one's like $50. Thanks for joining, man. So I'll break those two down. I've got the G-Crack guys sent me this A-rig, and the cool part about this one, I believe it's called the Stealth. Yeah, man. I went to Georgia myself, so big Bulldogs fan. They're looking good this year. But see, I got a new one. Got a brand new hat. I get all sweaty and they get dirty. But yeah. Got some G-Crack swim baits on there. I'm going to have to switch them out. They've been on there a while. But you can see it's just a basic A-rig. But the thing that makes this one different and much more castable is this stiff wire that goes out the front. It doesn't loop back over itself nearly as badly. And I wanted to touch on that one. Got this guy from Oliver. Whoops, let me slip it around there. It's the Cast OG with the Big Bass Dreams paint scheme that Oliver came up with. This is really smart, and I don't know if you guys have fished this Cast OG yet, but I'll probably just start with this one. And well, I do have my 5.8 Bellows gill that I covered, and one of the kids on YouTube, I wasn't clear about that, and I didn't know if he would join or not, but I can talk about that some more as well. But I think to start, this Cast OG is a very unique bait. It's doing very well. I had a buddy of mine back home, Mickey. I think he caught a striper on one last week. I first heard about this bait before Oliver's bass paint scheme was a deal. And if you guys have been following or haven't been following for a while, I like the bass pattern. I think it's a really overlooked pattern. Largemouth bass eat each other badly. And they literally, when they're born, they eat their brothers and sisters. There's no love lost between them. And I'm getting hits for that kid coming up on the screen that went missing here in Central Florida. Thanks for anybody who shared that. I think like 7,000 people saw that today. His mom was at the art show that I was at, and she was frantic, man. She lost her kid. It's real sad. He had an accident, had a brain injury, and he just went for a ride and never came home. Took the last few bucks he had out at the bank, and they haven't found him. So it's been a few days, and pray for him. And if anybody sees him, please notify 911. But back to Oliver's paint scheme. I think that's a really intelligent pattern that doesn't get mimicked very much. And like this size bait, give it a hand. It's about hand size. I think it's like the 60-gram one. I've got the 120 as well. It's about as big as a 1 pound bass. And I'm going to be rocking this at, Kevin's coming in with a great point. He's saying consider the condition of lakes with stunted bass populations. And that's exactly right. I was going to lead right up into that. Let me, yeah, bass is a great pattern. Frank, what's up, my friend? Thanks for joining. Mike, thanks for joining. Um, so yeah, this guy is a killer on our Upper Highland reservoirs in Georgia on the spots, and like I said, my buddy Wilson caught a striper on it, and I've caught some largemouths on it, and it's actually it's geared up. It's really nice. They got the rotating hook in there, and it's stainless. I'm pretty sure you get use it on saltwater, and I'm definitely going to try it in saltwater, maybe for some trout and some redfish. I think it's a real versatile bait, and if you guys haven't fished it, it looks like a spook, right? But it like the best way to describe this OG is a subsurface spook. If you guys remember the old like walk the dog pattern where the bait kind of darts out. JP, thanks for joining. What's up? Um, it would be the spook would be a surface. It's a cast. Um, is that backwards? It looks backwards to me. I don't know. It's because I'm on this front camera. So it's a cast bait, and the bass pattern is Oliver Nye's Big Bass Streams. They're like a collab they have going. So I picked these up, for Oliver. Not just for Oliver though, because I really like the idea of the bass pattern, and just like Mike said, it's stunted bass populations everywhere. And I noticed this years ago, like in the late '90s, early 2000. Um, okay, Frank. Sorry, man. Appreciate it. Everybody, pay attention to Frank. He's having a moment. No, I'm just playing with you, Frank. Frank's a good dude. He's been following a long time. We appreciate him. But the bass pattern, I got into using that on stunted bass ponds and lakes that I was managing in the late '90s. And I would do big oversized spinner baits. I would do oversized blades. But back then, there was no glide baits, and there were no, there were no. God, I would have. I was really close to trying to design something like this. I just wasn't confident enough in myself. I wanted hand-sized bluegill baits back then, and thought, why are lure companies not building lures to match the actual size of the fish that the bass eat? That always confused me, and I think bass lures were undersized for so many years that people assume that bass only eat small fish, and that's not true at all. If you guys have been following for a while, it's important that you have large forage, extremely large forage, and that's why we're getting the growth rates that we're getting on the example pond at Sugar Hill, because the forage is being fed, so it's artificially inflated. It's heavier than it would be, and that in turn makes the bass heavier. The heavier the meals they can get, the more weight they gain. So back to our cast OG. This thing with just a little bit of rod tip, you just reel it. You just burn the reel. 7 gears, 7-to-1 gears, six to fives. I mean, you need some speed to it. You don't want. I haven't tried it on the high gears yet. Um, like the eight fives or even nines. They make them higher. That can be deceptive too for anybody who you have to watch like the number of inches per turn, the size of the spool. You could have a high gear ratio type reel with a smaller spool, and it'll pull the same amount of line as a lower gear ratio reel with a larger spool. So watch that. Watch the number of turns, number of inches per turn that the reel takes up. But you really just kind of burn this thing and pause it, burn it and pause it, and it doesn't come back. Like you can see, it's like a spook, but it goes under the water. Yeah, they're big, dude. These guys, these cast dudes are out of Australia, so these things are designed for like Murray cod and barramundi and strange fish that we don't catch. So it'll handle bass. And like I said, I'll be able to use this guy in saltwater, no problem. And the erratic action that it gets. What's interesting about this bait is like, how you get like a crankbait if you want to burn it. A crankbait's going to have a certain wobble. Maybe it's wide, maybe it's tight, but it's real consistent in how it moves. This thing has absolutely no consistency in how it moves. It's very erratic. Sometimes it doesn't look so good. Like you got to kind of maybe give a tip or change the speed a little bit. But if you get it just right, you can walk the dog about 8 inches under the water, like an old spook. And it's just a dirty trick. When you learn to figure out this OG, man, they will come from 20 feet to smack it. I've seen spotted bass hit it. I've caught some nice largemouths and some ponds on it. And I'm fixing to put the big one in play over at Orange Lake. I've been doing this art stuff, and I've been busy, haven't been fishing much, and I'm fixing to change that. We got the weather's finally cooler down here in Central Florida, and there's been some really big bass caught at Orange Lake, which is about, by the way the crow flies, it's probably not 10 or 12 miles, maybe 15 over there, but it's probably like a 30 or 40-minute drive. So not too bad. And like one dude I saw online caught a 16-pound bass out there, and there's been multiples over 10 caught out there this year. So I'm real interested in fishing over there. Is my audio okay? You guys hear me okay? It looks, there we go. I think it's all right. I'll try to talk closer. So anyway, first one I'm putting in play is this super big. I don't have it in here. It's outside, and this place looks like a bomb hit it. I got to clean this place up, but it's the big brother version of this. It's 120 grain. Thanks, Mike. Cast OG, and then I'll scale back to maybe, like, I think this is the 60 I've got in my hand. It might be the. Does it have it on there? It does have it on there. It's the 40, to give you an idea. So the 60 is even bigger than this. It's this 40 is a pretty big bait, and I'm telling you, the 120 looks like a 1-pound bass. Frank's coming in with a question. Let me pull that up, Frank, so it always vanishes on me. I'm not using StreamYard yet. 42nd parallel is where his latitude is. Any guesses and hard facts on the water temp should be? Sorry, man, it's fading on me again. Let's put it back up there. 6 to 8 inch wakes. That's a good question, man. I think that's real subjective to where you are. And the one thing I do, though, man, I don't get real married to, I don't get married at all, but I definitely don't get married to like standard ideas, general trends. And I certainly don't pay much attention to like water temperature stuff. It kind of puts me off when dudes want to tie things to water temperature, because, sorry, all kind of junk going on. I don't know, it's kind of a cop-out to me. I've seen such erratic behavior in bass from temperature to temperature, like literally down here, they're starting to put on egg weight now. I mean, you're getting into like early pre-spawn in Florida, and in a month, it really will be the pre-spawn. We'll have a very early pre-spawn. That's what I love about fishing down here, because I love pre-spawn fishing. And that's exactly why I'm bringing all this stuff up, because lures like this, they don't see very much of. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm going to tie this back to your question, Frank. But I don't get married to any one thing, because big fish will trigger differently than all the other fish. Big fish are trickier. Big fish are smarter. I mean, we all know these things. So, heck yeah, I'll throw a wake bait when it's 50 degrees. I'll throw a surface bait when it's cold. Doesn't mean I'm going to rock it all day long, Yeah, Josh. It is interesting. Um, a lot of this stuff is just fascinating, you know. And but I think it's better to have an open mind. Don't get like, yeah, Kevin, there you go. Don't like I can't throw this because it's wintertime. I never think that way, you know. Now, like I said, it doesn't mean I'm going to fish a lure really really fast in the wintertime all day long. But I'm definitely going to add some speed to it. Would I throw a wake in the winter? Absolutely. Would I throw a surface in the winter? Absolutely. Yeah, the fish are probably going to be deeper, um, but that doesn't mean you can't trigger a strike. And I think that's important too because, like I said, those big fish, you need something a little bit different. You know, you need if you get married to what everybody else is doing, using that same ideology that everybody else is using, then you're not showing a bass that's educated anything new, and I think that decreases your odds of catching that fish. Um, I guess it's the best way I can articulate that. I hope that answers your question, Frank. So, exactly, Josh. Something that's different, something that stands out, that moves different, and that's what I love about the OG, because it moves like nothing else in the water. It's super erratic. Like you can throw it all day and reel it back all day, and it never comes back the same way two times. And it's still controllable though, and it's almost like a fluke in a way, and a Zara spook in a way, and almost like a crankbait too in a way, because you can get it. If once you get to messing with it, you can get the tip of the rod down. You can get it pretty deep. It's not. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a wake type bait, like right under the surface. It gets pretty deep. It's a brilliant idea, and just on that fact, where it's fishing this bait, you can fish it like a spook. You can fish it at the surface. You can fish it a couple, not real deep, but you can still get it subsurface and get real erratic movement and get different patterns, in the way that it moves. I highly recommend it. And they go down. They got like a 20 gram and a 40 and a 60, and I think the 120. I think there's four of them now. But if you don't have one, I would definitely roster one in your box, and I would be willing to bet. I haven't done any pike or muskie fishing. I'd like to get up north and do some of that, but I'd be willing to bet with the way this thing moves that they haven't seen anything like it. Any of those fish either haven't seen this, and yeah, give it a go. Again, don't get married to what these guys think. Think on your own. Do your own thing. Come up with your own patterns. And I'll just transition into Mike. This is Mike Buca's small 4 inch. But before I start, we're getting another one from Josh. Let me cover any questions that are coming in. He says he's seen where the forage matters at that time. Yeah. It's good to have an idea of the forage base. You know, I definitely will work oversized lures around gizzard shad because they're such big forage. The bass are going to be more accustomed to taking bigger meals and seeing bigger profiles, and that kind of goes into like what I call vibration signature, right? And I don't even know if that's a thing. I kind of made that up, but and I don't even know how you measure vibration in the water, to be honest. But a bass can measure vibration in the water with its lateral line. And for anybody who's hasn't watched or hasn't been keeping up, a lateral line system is a series of cells down the row of cells. And I'll just use this lure. Basically, we could imagine it along. It'll be just above that black line. It runs down like that from the head to the tail of the fish. And those cells are. It looks like on a microscope like a coffee cup with a hair in the middle. So it's opened on one end, and it has a hair that does like that, and any vibration in the water hits that hair and triggers that hits that filament, I guess is a better word to use. But and the bass can track what's in the water by the way those filaments or hairs move inside that cell. It's really small, but it's really sensitive. So think like a bat. You know, a bat doesn't have good eyesight. A bat uses echolocation. It uses sound vibrations instead of like water vibrations. But we all know that a bat, even though it can't see very well, has no problem eating tiny mosquitoes out of the air because of its echolocation capabilities. That's the level of sensitivity a bass has, you know, on its body. It can feel its surroundings with the lateral line. And I don't see many guys talking about it. Um, but of course, they don't talk about most of this stuff, so if they haven't read any of this stuff, they wouldn't probably understand it. It's highly complex system of neurons, and they made us learn all this crap in school, but we don't have to know all that. We just have to know a bass is sensitive like a bat, you know. So the lure vibration that goes into the water is critically important. And I think it's more important than color. Like guys want to get off on colors and paint and all that junk. I don't care. Hey, what's up, John? Thanks for joining, buddy. I think the vibration signature is a much more important idea. Okay. I want something that the bass feel like is natural prey vibrations in the water. So, and then I want to worry about color. But to me, it's like step one. Is it like muddy water? Are you doing something like a rattle trap that's highly vibration, high sound, high vibration, or maybe like a spinner bait? Again, a high flash, high vibration versus like super clear water where maybe it's a little more subtle and we've gone a different way with that. Maybe in clear water you're using a crankbait. It's a flat side that doesn't throw the vibration of a wide wobble. You guys see where I'm going with that? So the signature of the vibration in the water, and that's where I'll be switching my lures around from day to day. So again, my bull shad, this little small bull shad, this is my favorite one, a little 4-inch one. Right now I've got them, like I got this guy. Right now, think about the wobble that this thing throws off, right? Versus the wobble and vibration and the displacement that this throws off. Okay, it's completely different. And I think baits like Mike's swim baits, glide baits, they're proven to work. We all know they work. John, I'm glad John's on here. He's whacking them. If you're following him, man, he's been doing good work with the wakes. Mike's wake bait, I think you've been doing good on, John. Looks like it anyway. And that's a great bait. Again, you can wake it right at the surface. You can get a little depth out of it depending on where you put the rod. But at the end of the day, Mike has captured a vibration signature that's unique, that triggers bites. And I think that's the hard part. Like the old rattle trap, they still work to this day because that vibration signature is hitting something right. And I don't even know how to measure that as a scientist. I honestly don't. I don't know what machine you would use. I don't know if they even use machines or if it's a trial and error thing at the lure companies. They're pretty tight-lipped around there, and they don't include me in those kinds of conversations. But I think it's more trial and error than anything. Let me go back and yeah, John's saying he's using the bull wake and the 4x4. Yeah, dude, that 4x4 comes to the trees good too, man. Like I throw that right up into a blowdown with a lot of limbs, no problem. It'll come through and it won't get snagged up too much. So again, Mike's just a really good lure designer and has designed his baits to be really fishable, but at the same time hold that vibration signature integrity, maybe is the word I'm looking for, on all his baits. A giant square bill. That's perfect description, John. It's like a big square bill. If you guys haven't fished square bills around wood, we get a lot of blowdowns, a lot of pine tree blowdowns in Georgia, and I would say Michael's got a good question about the lateral line sensitivity being affected by current. Absolutely, they can feel current, they can feel any kind of vibration in the water, but it would kind of be like background noise to our ears. When you get into a situation where there's something vibrating in your eardrums, like somebody talking or a band or whatever, you can still hear. You can still use your ears with a little background, right? So that flow, or even somebody consistently making noise in the water. Or here's a good example, like a place like Lake Lanier where there's a lot of boat traffic all the time, right? Those boat props are throwing out immense amounts of vibration, immense amounts of noise, especially with the numbers of boats that are on that dang lake. But at the same time, it just becomes background. The fish aren't spooked by it anymore. Whereas if you go blowing across a pond that never has any boats in it at all, that's announcing your presence with authority. You don't want to do that. You need to be quiet in quiet places, and probably can get away with a lot more in heavily fished places. Flip side of that coin, quiet in quiet places, you're going to have less lure resistance and things like that. Where at Lake Lanier, you're going to have a ton of lure resistance. So, there's kind of give and take and understanding that. Let me go back through. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Dustin's on here. The mag draft. I've seen some dudes in Florida smacking them. Ted Lincoln, he follows along. He's a Florida fisherman. He does well. He caught a 10-pounder on that mag draft. So yeah, exactly the same point I'm having, Dustin. It's something different about the mag draft, right? So, like, I pay attention to the lures that dudes catch big fish on for that reason, and I'll get a couple different colors. And I'm not like crazy about colors or anything. I usually stay pretty natural. I try to pay attention to, dark lures in dark water, and like white lures in clear water. And I usually start right there, and keep it right there most of the time, unless there's, something crazy, that somebody shows me that's way different. If I don't know much about it, I'm kind of staying on that pattern, and I'll rock this white, man. I mean, I don't need anything but white, especially in clear water. This white bull shad. Now, let me talk about this too, man, because this 4-inch bull shad is deadly, and deadly on many different species of fish. I've caught all kinds of fish on it in all kinds of places, and I usually will fish it on a spinning tackle. And I started out talking about you can also get this Castco. It's a mimic. You can see it's very similar. They mimicked the cast company, took this 4-inch and made it out of a different kind of plastic. This is a poured resin that Mike's used. This is probably like a $50 bait if you buy it from the store, where this one's like $15. Now you can get these with Jen's color patterns, their custom colors and stuff. So if you're new to swim baits and you don't want to spend 50, I totally get that. I think the Castco $15 bait still throws off. It holds that unique, that vibration that this bait has. They're mimicked off one another, so they both work very well. I have not, Dustin, but I know some people who have. There's a girl that follows the page, Florida Bass Mistress, and I went fishing down there with her one time, and she actually uses this one a lot on the peacocks. She knocks them dead. She caught several of them with me that day on this bait. So I know they work on peacocks. I know they work on largemouth. I know they work on crappie. Spotted bass will eat them. I've caught green sunfish on it. It's really a good bait. Now, I'll tell you the secret. I'm going to do a video about this too for YouTube, and it won't be a secret anymore, but since you guys are here, I'll tell you my secret with this bait, okay? And I got it confirmed let's see, I have to go back in time. I had a dude that came through with some private water, and Mike was doing wanted to do some private pond fishing and private lake fishing, searching for places to catch bigger fish, So he came with me to a client that I consult with, lake down in southern Alabama. It's about a year ago, I think. So we went down there for 3 or 4 days and fished together. And talk about an experience, man. Fishing with Mike he's a wealth of knowledge, and getting to be on the boat with him for a week or so and pick his brain was an invaluable, and getting just to watch him fish. I literally would just watch what he was doing. And I think you can learn more that way when you get around experienced fishermen, watch their hands, watch how they work the rod. And Mike, we were in Mike's boat, so he was driving, and we were fishing. We fished 4 or 5 lakes that are around 30 acres in size. And the first thing that I noticed about the way Mike fishes was the speed. He was on the trolling motor, and he didn't let up. He did not. He was not working water. He was covering water, and his baits are kind of designed. When you hear the whole story, you'll understand where this all ties in. So we get out there, we're fishing. You're not fishing a worm with Mike. You're just going to be dragging in the wake. You know what I mean? He's on the motor and going. And he was throwing. He wasn't throwing. He was throwing the trick shad wasn't out yet. It was a prototype then, so he was throwing the trick shad, and I was throwing a one size bigger than this one, the 6-inch. And I was also, I actually, that day I did catch a few fish. I was actually working this really fast. Let it go to the bottom and just work it really fast, because it's all you could do or to be dragging behind you. But the 5.8 was working that day too, so I caught some fish on that. But Mike moves. And the other thing, he fishes his baits unnaturally fast. Okay, and I'm getting to the point that I want to make with you guys. And I picked this up. I was doing this, but I started doing it more after fishing with Mike. Usually I use a spinning rod with this bait, right? And it's a moderate fast break. So it's a stiff rod. It recovers fast with a fast action, but it has moderate break where it breaks more in the middle. And on spinning tackle with a slightly oversized spool, and again, a spinning rod will bring this lure back really fast because of the large spool diameter. And if you get one that has a little bit higher gear ratio, just watch the inches per turn on the retrieve. You can get one that pulls a line really fast as well. And that's the key. If I'm using bait caster, I'll go to like a jig reel, right? I don't really care about the line. I'll fish 20 pounds, 17 pound, 15 pound, whatever, even with that little bait. And the one thing I like about this bait over this bait is this resin bait is heavy, and you can bomb it in the wind, where this bait is not so good in the wind. It's a lighter bait. It's different material. Josh, I'll touch on how the physics teacher taught us about how light works in the water in 1 second. That's a good question. So I like this bait for windy days, especially because you can still bomb cast it and just fan cast it in all directions and roast it. And here's the trick. Put it on the 8-to-1 gears. Put it on your bait. If you're using a bait caster, put it on like your jig bait caster with the high retrieve gears. You want it coming and burn it. Absolutely scald it. Like, you cannot reel it too fast. Try to burn. And that's another thing in his bait too. It doesn't blow out at speed. It tracks and pauses, tracks and pauses, tracks and pauses, no matter how fast you bring it back. A lot of crankbaits and moving baits can't do that, but Mike's can. And it's because of the way he fishes and the way he designs it. He put the speed, make it a speed merchant. Bass will track it. Once you trigger a bass, nothing can get away from a bass. So don't worry about moving it too fast. That's kind of a myth. But that's the secret. Fast. And faster the better, The day we fished, I remember the first day he put that trick shad in play on me, dude. He had me 15 fish to 2. And just absolutely burning the hell out of it. And I'm just like I said, I was sitting there watching going, okay, noted. All right, let me go back and make sure I'm not missing anything. You guys are throwing a lot. You got that right, John, man. You take some balls, throw a $60 bait into a tree. Yep, you're right, Josh. You know, a trap has a different kind of shimmy to it, something a little different, little vibration signature to it. And one thing too that I learned in the '90s, I was in a bass club with the trap. Those dudes would take a little drill bit and drill a hole in them, and either fill them with super glue or I don't know. You can probably pull it up on YouTube and find a bunch of guys that used to do that. But it made the BB stop rattling, and now I know they make traps that don't have any rattles too. Um, but that rattleless trap can just, again, you're just getting the vibration without the noise, and sometimes that is just the smoke too, man. You can do good on those. Okay, so Josh is asking, in clear, in clear. Sorry, my eyes are bad. White and clear, stained muddy water at the time, unless it changes as far as color. Colors mainly. Yeah, well, I mean, exactly, dude. Like I said, I'm not real married to color patterns. I'll throw plain white all the time, honestly, or black, white or black, be contrasted. But here's how the physics teacher explained, or the physics behind how colors work in the water. So it's kind of confusing, but uh, maybe I can explain it so it's not. All right. So white in clear water, black or brown in stained water. Now, of course, we're talking about water probably less than 20 feet deep, and it depends on the clarity because you have light penetration, you have different shades, and different types of. There's a lot. We're just talking very general now, okay? Don't, because people like to go crazy on this and start nitpicking. But all right, so the reason why. All right, let's say the water is green. Let's say it's got a nice plankton bloom and it's got 18 inches of visibility, and the water is green like this lure, okay? And so this lure goes from white to dark green, and it's got every color of green, okay? So I would pick this lure in green water. Why? Because how our eyes work and how bass's eyes work the same way. So if we look at this lure, we see green. What does that mean? That means the color of the lure, the paint on the lure absorbs every single color except for green. Green reflects off the paint. It comes back to our eye. It goes through our, goes into the back of our brain. And remember all that stuff about your eye, okay? And it hits your brain, and your brain says, that's a green lure. The exact same way when we look at the water, we say that's a green water because the plankton in the water is green. It's reflecting green because there's a high plankton density. So that's how we got green in the water. That's how we got a green lure. Now, with that in mind, again, in shallow water where the light is there and the water's green, the most visible color in green water is some shade of green because the water's green. The most visible color in brown water is some shade of brown, pretty close to the color of the water because that's what's being reflected. Now, it's counterintuitive, I know, but that's what excuse me, that is what the physics guy taught us that came in and talked about colors in the water. Now, once you get down to a certain depth, you can just use black. You lose all color. We're not talking about deep. We're just talking about general. And I can tell you, since I was in college, on days where I don't know where I'm fishing and I don't have any kind of patterns or any kind of special information about what the fish are biting, I'll start right there. I match the color of the lure to the color of the water, and you can't go wrong. Sorry, I'm choking again. And I've always done that since that guy taught us that about kind of the physics of water reflection. But then that also brings us back to the lateral line where we started. The fish don't even need eyes to eat. That's how sensitive their lateral line is. Right? They know it's there. They know it's moving. They can tell it's there. They can tell the distance away it is. And in fact, even if a bass has its eyes removed, it can still catch that fish and eat it with its lateral line system alone. It doesn't even need eyesight. So keep that in mind when you're fishing at night. Keep that in mind when you're fishing in muddy water. If the visibility is low, rattle trap it, speed it, add some vibration to it. Just give it a little bit more vibration in the water, and those fish do not have any trouble tracking it without being able to see it. Otherwise, you would never be able to catch bass in muddy water. And I actually, on some of my lakes, I prefer them to be a little bit stained. It seems like the fishing is a little bit easier. Oversize your baits in muddy water. Again, change your vibration signature first before I worry about the color. So, absolutely, I've caught fish on white lures in muddy water. I've also caught them in black ones. I don't get married to lure color as much as I do to how it's vibrating, how it's moving in the water, and what they're taking that day. Because we all know, what happens today is not going to happen tomorrow generally. And that's why I say be versatile, put something else in play. Who cares some yo-yo on TV or whatever said that doesn't work in the winter? I have proved that wrong many times on the ponds. I used to fish every day, for years. And I usually carry 3 rods. I don't know why. I must be having allergies again or something. Sorry, guys. Josh has got another question coming in, but it's fading. Yeah, there you go, man. Diving's a great example of how that works. Yep. Big Malone, what's up, my man? Welcome aboard. Thanks for joining. I've been running my mouth for a while and choking on some kind of pollen or something in the air. About to die. Anyway, we talked a little bit about the Stealth by G-Crack. I'm breaking these out. We've got the shad, the fall pattern shad are coming up the surface. They're balled up. There's some striper down at the dam. I snagged a striper actually on this bait right here. Striper whacked it, and I caught some scales in the back hook and didn't get them in. But schooling baits like this in the fall, can't go wrong. Use them all winter. Don't really know why. I think it has to do with the biology of the shad and the way they ball up. I like the A-rigs this time of year going forward to, it depends on what part of the country you're in. If it's a little bit cooler water where you're at, you can go to them right now. It's a pretty good wintertime rig. I've had days where literally everything to cast the tackle box all day, 8 hours. And then, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're ready to leave. You haven't done shit. And you tie an A-rig on and whack 12 fish. Me and Wilson did that last year at Trophy Lake and Heath Lake in Rome, Georgia. Guy pulled out on the ramp. If you guys go there, it's only open from the 1st to the 10th if you're in Georgia. It's trophy managed by the DNR and by the power company. They're kind of working together there. But you can only go out there on the first 10 days of the month. But if you're backing in on that boat ramp, you only go about 300 or 400 yards to about the 1 to 2 o'clock position right out there. There's about 14 to 15 feet of water. We caught every one of those fish on an A-rig right there, not too far from the ramp. That lake also has big rock piles, like massive chunk riprap piles out there, and you got to find those. They're not hard to find, but also at Heath Lake, go with a white chatterbait. Don't know why, but usually catch fish on it there. But there's some decent fish in there. I had one hit this. I actually hooked one on this guy when I first got it. I had I almost caught 40 pounds of fish that day. Not on a limit. I had a higher than maybe 7 fish day or something. But the one that I missed, I'd really like to get back. It jumped and spit it, and I didn't get the hook in it right, and that was disappointing. But I had a real good day on the Bellas Gill in there, so just noted. Anyway, I think that's pretty much. I don't see. I had one more lure, but I didn't bring it in. I'll save it for later. I'm gonna go back and check through questions real quick, make sure I didn't miss anything. And if you guys have anything, throw it up. Josh's color. Yeah, yeah, I agree with you, Josh. Sometimes there's some magic happening on like strange things that don't make any sense at all, and they make sense to the bass. That's all that matters. The fixed rattle one, yeah, where I was talking about the rattle trap. He's saying they make that fixed rattle one, absolutely, yeah. And there's some other companies now coming out with some traps that are, I call them traps. They're not rattle traps, but lipless crankbaits that sink. That yo-yo pattern, let it go to the bottom on a lipless, and another pattern that's really good that I have nailed them on, and it's usually when it's super hot. The Quake by Six Sense works good on this pattern. The old school rattle trap works good. Um, yeah, Josh is coming in with another question. Do I ever throw A rigs by Timber? Absolutely, man. Like fan cast them everywhere. Um, and I'll keep them. Sometimes I'll wake them like just right up under the surface, and sometimes I'll let them go all the way to the bottom, and then and kind of slow roll them down deep, excuse me, everything in between. Yeah, throw them all over the place, trying to get them snagged. Get you a lure retriever. That'll help you a lot. Yeah, around trees, they get hung up around there. Oh, I had a point that I was going to make, then I got sidetracked. What was it? Maybe it'll come back to me. I'll just scroll through the questions real quick. All right, we covered that one. Oh, the fixed rattle and the rattle trap technique. All right, so usually when it's super duper hot, you do this, and I've had good success. Throw the trap out. I don't care really which one it is, but I will try a couple different patterns, like old school rattle trap or the Quake or whatever you like. I gotta keep a couple different kinds. Um, Throw it out, let it go to the bottom. Don't point the rod tip right at it. Like if you're the guys that keep it, I keep it about like that, maybe like the 2 o'clock position. I don't have it straight at the bait, so I always use a crankbait rod with this, so I've got a nice medium break to the rod. My favorite crankbait rod is St. Croix. The Mojo Bass glass one is the dirty trick on them, man. And now I've got the Mojo Legend, which is even worse. I've never seen such a sticky treble hook rod. Treble hook are important to have the right kind of rod and right kind of setup. Anyway, let that trap go to the bottom, reel the slack up, and then just drag it. Don't get it off. Don't let the bait come off the bottom. Just drag it with the reel right on the bottom. You keep in contact with the bottom the whole time. You don't want it to come off the bottom at all. And you can pause it a little bit, kind of give it some quick pauses. But most of the time, I just drag it with the reel all the way back to the boat. And I don't know what that is. You get snagged a lot, depending on where you are. But dragging a trap on the bottom like that can be deadly. An old fisherman in the bass club taught me that years ago. It's almost like fishing a worm. It's really a slow retrieve, and it's usually when they're hot. It usually works best when it's really hot and the fish are right on the bottom on those hot days, especially in shallow water lakes. I've noticed that pattern too. Shallow water lakes hot, just dead drag that trap, and you'll feel it shimmy just a little bit down there, just barely shaking. And I've had some days where we caught every dang bass in the pond doing that. Not many people do that, so hope that helps you guys. A rigs by Timber, sure. Oh, Victor, man, thank you for being here and watching, man. I appreciate it. 14 knots, great, man. I really appreciate you guys. I've messed up. I didn't know much about social media when I started all this stuff, and then I've done so many podcasts now. Um, and talked to so many dudes that are like, Alex Rudd and Oliver Nye and Andrew on Tackle Talk. And I don't know, not to name drop or anything, but I've just had a lot of good conversations with dudes that are having some success on YouTube. And I was very foolish not to be more engaged with YouTube, because you can get paid just for talking on here, and that's obviously not probably going to happen on Instagram. They dangle a carrot in front of you over there, but nothing's ever really coming through with them. So my YouTube page is going to be the primary driver of all this information from now on. And you're going to see a lot more advertisements like you've been seeing the past few days. I've actually got some merchandise coming, and I'm going to go live. It should be here on Wednesday. I'm kind of getting jerked around a little bit by the guy, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for now. Just, how everything is these days, things get delayed. But I got some hats, some shirts, and just some merch. And you'll see commercials for the merch pretty much on YouTube or on Instagram. And then I'm gonna be doing longer format videos at the pond. And going forward, the pond information will be available here, and I'll copy that to Facebook, because I can copy the YouTube channel, to Facebook, but I can't copy it to Instagram. So it'll be more like advertisements for the YouTube, for the long format video on. You're not going to get much information on Instagram anymore, is what I'm getting at. I just with the amount of money these dudes are making on YouTube, I've had several posts. I mean, my highest one was 4 million, but that was definitely a long stretch away, higher than the rest. But I still have had 400, 300,000, a lot of 50 and 100,000 type engagement on the reels, and I get great view times on Instagram on this. So I know if I get to some daily effort on the shorts and some weekly effort on the long format, that I'll be able to climb up on YouTube. I can't see how the algorithms are that much different. So no, that's my plan going forward. So I can just put some money in my pocket for this, because Instagram's really not. It doesn't pay, and I don't really want to charge people to make posts. Like they like, oh, will you charge other people to post on your Instagram? Well, that would be fine. But every single time I do that, if you guys notice, like sometimes I'll hammer something 2 or 3 times, like a podcast that I'm going to be on, because what happens is, if you don't get a lot of engagement on Instagram, nobody sees it over there anyway. Like 300 people see it. And I've got 17,000 now. And I'm looking at posts that don't hit the algorithm right, and it doesn't get shared to anyone. So that's when you'll see me posting 2 or 3 times in a day. It's because my metrics suck, and the algorithm's not picking it up and sharing it to anyone. And the whole idea, it's like, how can I change my format, do a commercial for somebody, and then charge them to put it on my page when it might only get, like, I had no follower count. So that just seems counterintuitive, and I'm kind of just pissed at those dudes. I will be also sharing to the pay. I'll be doing I have like a subscription page. It's like $1 a month on Instagram. So I'll be talking about the pond and these types of things on there as well for those folks that are paying. But you'll be able to catch it all over here for free. So thanks for following. Oh, great, man. I think that said B. I'm sorry, my eyesight. I don't have my reading glasses on. B. If I didn't call your name right, I'm sorry, but thanks for joining. I really appreciate that, man. Let me go back through. I hit a bunch of. It was going by, and I was running my mouth. All right, there's standing timber. We covered that. Good info. Covered that. All right. Vogel comes in here. I think that's Mike. I'm sorry, my eyes are terrible. But I definitely see Vogel, so I'll call him Vogel. Go-to bait and technique when fishing from the bank. Well, that is super easy, dude. When I was a bank fisherman for most of my life, as a kid, we didn't have boats. My dad was a truck driver, and I fished every day back then too. But we were not boat money people, and so I did a lot of bank fishing as a young man, as a kid. We had ponds all over my neighborhood, 3 ponds around my house, so I fished all the time. And still, even when I worked, some of the ponds that I worked on, I wouldn't put the boat in or couldn't get the boat in. So you had bank fishing, and it's divided into the trick worm by Zoom or the super fluke by Zoom. I think those are, again, they're different and the way and the types of vibration they put in the water, and they're the same too in the kind of the way that you fish them. That pop, pop, pause, let them sink type of thing. You can fish them very versatilely. They're very weedless. Um, and honestly, the trick worm, to me, I mean, I do good with the fluke too. It's probably, I don't know, I probably don't want to call one better than the other one, but I like a trick worm. I can skip a trick worm a little bit better. It's a little longer profile bait, and I'll call you can stall it out and drag it on the bottom like a plastic worm, and then every type of technique in between, all the way up to even waking it and working it at the surface, and then of course stalling it and letting it fall. And to me, that falling, it's that move it quickly, and I mean really quickly, just like we talked about with the bull shad. We were talking about Mike. Move that, smoke that trick worm for a good distance, and then pause it. And I'm not fishing it like that all the time either, but vary your speeds. Sometimes you're fishing slowly, sometimes you're fishing medium, sometimes you're fishing fast, and that would be three different casts for me. I'm not getting married to any one technique until I start getting bites. But I think too many people, when fishing gets hard, slow down, and that's wrong. Don't do that. If the fishing is tough, I'm going faster and faster and faster, and I'm going with different baits that are faster and faster. Again, that's the common knowledge, right? And we don't follow that here. So I think about what's the common knowledge, and I do the opposite. All right, B says it's new. That's cool. Frank is talking something specific that I'm not sure. That's cool. Mike saying, okay, they're both having a conversation about things I'm unaware of. And, well, I'm going to wait 1 second here in case there's any more conversations or questions from me, and then I'm going to get off. It's been about an hour. And just want to thank you guys for showing up. I really appreciate it. And I hope all this junk helps. It's 40 years of bass fishing for me. Actually, 42, 43. I'm 50 now, so I can remember I was like 6 or 7 the first time I went bass fishing. And yeah, I think I can provide a unique perspective sometimes. I'm definitely not a pro fisherman and can't tell you guys how to win a bass tournament or anything like that. That's a different skill set than what I possess, and I'm very aware of that. I think probably my biggest complaint, if I'm going to be a complainer for a minute, is the guys who do bass fishing tournaments seem to think that they possess my skill set from just going bass fishing, and it's not how that works. Fisheries biology school is incredibly hard, and I have cherry picked the data and the information from that because I went through school with a bass fisherman's mentality. And the thing about fishery school is you'll be surprised. You do not learn about bass. As a matter of fact, bass or most classes, you're strictly forbidden to even speak about them. They don't teach you this stuff in school as much as you'd think they would, and they specifically do not like bass because they're so popular, and you'll get into other fish a lot. Hell, half the damn school we went to, we studied fish that hadn't been alive in a million years, prehistoric stuff and just whatever. But what I'm getting at is I have waded through the school nonsense and then found the teachers that would answer these types of questions for me. So I went through that whole process, trying to understand and learn from a bass fisherman's perspective. And I think that's what probably makes me a little bit more unique than most of these cats that you hear, either pro fishermen or biologists, because, well, not everybody looks at it that way. Big Malone went to a trophy lake. Oh, he's having a conversation I don't get, so I'm not going to get involved. Faster is better. I agree, Josh. Thanks, Mike, man. I appreciate you following. John Aldred, you know you're my guy, man. Appreciate you too. Thank you for that compliment, sir, and I'm glad it's helping. I think John's a great example of what I'm talking about. Especially for your bigger fish. Uh, I think it was Fish North Georgia, right, John? You heard me on there for the first time a few years ago, and I don't even remember what I said or what I was talking about, but he hit me up and he said, "Man, that was informative, and I never thought about it that way." And then he went out the next day and caught a real nice bass, maybe like a PB for him. I think he's busted that since then. But um, he took a little bit of information and he applied it, you know, and to the situation that he was in. Yeah, that's right, John. Good. Um, and that makes me so proud. That makes me so happy to, and that's a different thing about me too, man. As I've noticed than most dudes is like you have to think about it from my perspective though. If you hire me to manage your lake, okay, it's my job to get you to catch fish, right? It doesn't matter how good a fisherman I am because I've had this happen before where the dude who hires you to manage the pond for trophy fish, the fish were there. Dude couldn't hook himself in the ass if he sat on a box of eagle claws. He's such a bad fisherman, right? He's got plenty of money and an interest in it, so he pays you, but dude can't fish, right? So that's somebody that you have to kind of coach a little bit. And again, it goes back to 40 years of bass fishing. It's like, the dude that's holding the spinning rod upside down, this kind of nonsense. um, so I became very aware at a very young age, like at 23, 24 years old, that my fishing ability is really not that important compared to the man who's paying you to grow these fish. He's the one who has to catch fish. So again, my perspective for the last 25 years has been completely opposite of this whole like this stuff's a secret and we're going to go win money because we're competitive. Actually, I'm not competitive with my fishing at all. Guys can have every bit of information um, because that's my frame of reference. And just like the site, like my page, I get guys that get some real hate for some dudes who do this for a living. They don't want you knowing this stuff, but people say to me, not so much anymore, but when I first got going, like, why are you telling them all this information? Well, it's like again, it goes back to that. This is a secret. This makes me better than you type of idea, and I don't agree with that mentality because how do I articulate this? There aren't there aren't really no secrets in fishing. If you have this secret technique, a lot of other guys know it. Um, I don't believe like I can tell you I've done this so long. Like I can tell you exactly what I would do to your pond to correct it. But once you step out of this realm and into the field, into the real world, you have to be able to convert that information to, walking around doing it right information. And you can't just hear this stuff like one time and understand it to the level that I do because I've been doing it for so long. So, and I've seen this over and over and over again. I tell the dude, do it like this, do this, this, and this. And then they'll look, okay. And then they go and they could do that and then not two and three. Um, you can tell people till you're blue in the face exactly what to do. They hardly ever listen. And that's what I appreciate about you guys, man. You guys listen and just like John, you take it in and you apply it to the situation that you're in and don't get caught up in your ego. That's the biggest thing I see is just like this competitive type ego type. I'm a better fisherman than you. It's like, okay, you're better than me. Great. I don't care. I just like to fish and I don't fish in tournaments. I don't fish for money. I fish for big fish. That's what I like. And if, since I have that idea in my head, that helps you guys because Now you can kind of see it from my point of view, and not that my point of view is right or wrong, but at least you get a different perspective and somebody who's not withholding information from you on some kind of nonsensical competition kind of thing. Anyway, let me check the. All right. Well, I don't see any more questions, and it's been a little over an hour, so I'm going to jump off. Thank you guys for being here, and I hope this stuff helps, and I'll see you back here in about a week. Thank you.